Stay. No, back up here. Stay. Namaste, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. I'm really sad to say that yesterday I recorded or thought I had recorded this lesson from the studio, and I needed it because I'll be leading a retreat in Rishikesh, India for about 10 days. And I wanted you guys from my online program to have this class, but unfortunately, I programmed it wrong. It failed to record. So here we are, take two. There is no way I can replicate what we did at the studio yesterday because we were in a space and I was in a certain headspace, and we had an amazing group of people there. The class was packed. And there is something to be said about energy exchange when you're doing it live. So anyway, the blissful flow that I just recorded was on honoring the ancestors. And this gentle restorative practice is about healing ancestral patterns and wounds. This is all inspired from a retreat that I led. Who wants to be on the mat with us today? Hi, Ringo. Okay, that's it. So it was in Leaper's Fork outside of Franklin, Tennessee, and we arranged for us to be on this property to build an altar to honor the ancestors, and we did this really beautiful ritual with it that ended up actually lasting 2 hours. The second half of the retreat was for healing ancestral patterns and wounds. And there's many reasons why I wanted to do this. First of all, if you look at different cultures around the world, this time of year, moving from October into November, is a time where the veil is thin between the physical and the spiritual plane. And it's a great time then to acknowledge the ancestors. But as we know, not all of our ancestors maybe are worth honoring. I told the group yesterday that my family's, or my father's family, had put together a book about the Van Hoosiers. And his mother was a Van Hoosier. And actually, it goes back in history to the point where the people had actually come to America. But there was a particular person in our family lineage who became a spy for the English during the Revolutionary War. And obviously, the other family members that were all about the American Revolution were disheartened and unpleased by his act of treason. And they ended up, a lot of them, changing their name to Van Hoo or Van Hooser, or, just different versions of that name because they wanted to distance themselves from that person. And of course, we all have stories like this in our history, but we also have stories of heroes, of people who, may have done great things for humanity. But when we look back at our family of origin or our ancestors, there's an array of people, there's an array of personalities, but we may see a certain pattern that's passed on from generation to generation. Sometimes even in our DNA, certain things can be expressed. There could be certain things like diabetes that tend to come up for certain families, or high blood pressure, or heart attacks, or cancer, or things of that nature. The good news is they have discovered scientifically that if we are disciplined in meditation can slow down the expression of those things that would create disease and illness, and can turn on the things that lead us to health and wholeness. Thich Nhat Hanh said, when we meditate, we are sending ripple effects back to our ancestors and forward to our descendants. So that's how powerful meditation can be. The yogis actually say meditation helps to cleanse karma. And that's what I want to talk about next. If you think about karma and there being karmic patterns or cycles within families, we just went through an eclipse season. And that first solar eclipse tied into relationships, the relationships we have with people, the relationships we have with family, the relationships we have with our partner, even the relationship we have with ourselves. And then 2 weeks later, the lunar eclipse was affecting the amygdala system, the emotional center of the mind. But if you looked at Vedic astrology, the sister science of yoga, Vedic astrology was saying this is a perfect time astrologically and within the time that we're going through with this wheel turning in our history on this planet for us to turn karmic patterns into dharmic potential. So I want you to think about how we can turn our hurt into healing, our karma into dharma. So dharma is the path in life, our purpose in life. And one thing that I would like to say about my own history, my grandparents didn't impose this, but my family of origin is really religious. And they push their religious dogma onto us, not other people, but to the family members. And I always wanted to push back a little bit. And I am happy to say that I broke that cycle. I am no longer fixed by this dogma that I grew up in. And I've considered myself a wild card or a wild flower in a way from breaking those particular patterns. And happy to say that my son is also now following in my footsteps. But these things that we want to change or alter or that we see as a fixed pattern or a wound, it could be something hurtful like abuse, right? We don't want to allow the abuse to carry on. So if the abuse happened to us, then it's our responsibility to end the cycle right here, right now with me, so that I'm not doing that to my child or sending that on to anyone else, right? This can show up with religious dogma, abuse, addiction with alcohol or drugs. This could be types of dysfunction. It could be even the feeling of lack or abandonment. And the list, of course, can go on and on and on. So even though this may feel like a heavy subject matter, I want us to use this practice to release these things, to break these attachments, and to know that it is possible to create change. One more example, I read this great series of books called The Man Named Dave, and I think I got rid of the books because it was a really heavy subject matter. He had severe abuse as a child, but he was able to conquer that. He was able to overcome that obstacle. He was able to get out of that family. He was able to receive help. And now he's dedicated his life to writing the books, to doing TED Talks, to being a public speaker, to being a part of a nonprofit organization to help people break the cycle. So for now, I want us to sit with our hands down to the lap, and our eyes gently closed. And I want us to consider and to bring into mind someone from our ancestral line. And that could be from our birth family or adopted family. Someone that may have caused conflict, caused pain, or suffering. And how they passed it on. You may see the remnants within yourself or another member of your family. But it cannot be healed until it is acknowledged, accepted, not that you have to accept the act, to bring in compassion for yourself, even for them, because they were just mimicking and mirroring something that was already done to them. And maybe they didn't have the strength or the knowledge or the know-how to break the chain. And we'll do a forgiveness meditation at the end. But once you have this person in mind, you're going to lace your fingers together and we're going to do something called cutting the cord in case there's some sort of energetic or emotional attachment from them to you. All right? So it looks like this. We're going to breathe the arms up and breathe them down forcefully. But then we're going to add in a sound. Inhale. Exhale. Ha! 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 You can think about this being like an axe cutting through wood or something solid. You could think about a meat lever or a paper lever, cutting it in half. 3 more. Ha! 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 And set yourself free. Let your palms rest open on your lap. Feel the heaviness in your arms. The energy you generated that's draining down. And visualize that when you feel that energy draining out and away, it's any of that memory, any of that pain or suffering, anything imposed upon you is releasing away. And then open your eyes, fold your strap in half, extend your arms in front of you, and for a more gentle practice, you may want it a little wider than shoulder width. Lift the arms overhead. Exhale, curve to one side. Keep your head in between the arms. We're breaking up some of that tension that gets housed around the lungs, some of that tension that can settle into the intercostal muscles, in between each rib, so that our lungs can expand more fully, so that we can oxygenate our blood more. And the more breath we bring into ourselves, the more we can purify not only our lungs, but our mind and emotions. Inhale, bring it back up. Exhale, teeter to the other side. Holding and breathing here. Affirming strength and courage fills up my body cells. I want us to approach this practice today without fear. Fear actually is related back to the kidneys, and the kidneys relate to the first or root chakra. The root chakra is our foundation. It goes back to our ancestral roots. Let's rise back up. Let's exhale, bring the strap behind the head. Feel the chest kind of protruding forward. Send the strap towards the wall behind you. Feel the quivering that may start to occur as we release tension in the upper back, in the trapezius zone, as we free up the heart, because as we know, the heart can relate to heart matters. Family ties are in our heart as well. Lift the arms up overhead. Exhale, bring the strap down for a moment. Recline to your back. Let's recline to the back with the strap in hand because I just mentioned the root chakra comes back in to the subject matter of ancestral ties. So place the strap around the ball of the right foot, extend the leg in the air, activate your left leg, still on your mat. Find your edge of flexibility and try not to have a death grip on the strap. Remembering the legs are what propel us forward into action, can help us to overcome hurdles. And Ganesh is the ruler of the pelvic floor, and he is the remover of obstacles. So in the studio, I had mantras dedicated to Ganesh yesterday. Let's place both ends of the strap now into the right hand, sail it to the right side of the body, pausing with the foot hovering above the floor. Abducting the leg away from you, and I want you to think about the time that you can celebrate breaking away from the karmic patterns that have been embedded in your family that maybe were not healthy. I want you to consider that you created a new bud, a new flower, a new leaf, a new branch in your family tree for doing such. And that's to be applauded. Could be something you're working on now. Bring the leg back up, swap handhold to hold the strap, send it over the body, keeping your low back grounded, and just isolate the IT band a moment because this is what irritates us. And since this is our subject, I wanted you to pause here. Free up your right hand, twirl towards your left hip, move into the spinal twist. Keep that foot hovering and breathe down deep into your belly because we tend to hold other people's opinions and judgment in our core. And I know for myself, I get judged a lot on breaking away from my religion. Yours may be another subject matter. And it sucks because the people we love, we want them to accept us and to love us and not to judge us. But oftentimes they do. So let's breathe that out and away, rinse it out of our system. And then inhale, bring yourself back. Bend the knee, remove that foot. So let's take it to the other side. Let your left foot away to those karmic patterns or stressors or trauma that we experience. And for instance, the left side, I'll always mention the feminine side. Well, what's showing up in the left side of your body? It doesn't necessarily have to be in your legs. That could be stemming from the matriarch side of the family or another female in your family. The right being the masculine or patriarchal side. All right, let's take both ends in the left hand, lower it down. And again, celebrating the idea that it's possible to break away, to form a new branch, to form a new leaf, to bloom in a different way than what was demonstrated to you. Inhale, bring the leg up. Exhale, cross it over your midline, but pause when you go a fraction of the way. Noticing if you're more sensitive on this side or the other. And that would be going back towards what's galling us, because this is the gallbladder meridian. Let's go ahead and teeter over towards the right hip, moving into that twist, trying to keep the left shoulder on the ground. Bringing and rinsing out the residue, maybe lingering in our bellies. Gently unroll, bend the knee, and move the strap. All right, bend both knees. Take your left foot over the right knee, and you can stay here. Maybe this is already sensitive for you. Maybe you want to place a block underneath the right foot to build it higher. Maybe you can clasp your hands around your right leg and hug in. Now, be aware that the low back can tie in with both the first and second chakras. The low back can again go back to family. I have a good friend who I've known for years who has a low back ailment that can also be debilitating at times. But she also has had trouble with her family of origin. Her mother, psychopathic, her dad, abusive. And I really think that's where the stress of all that got lodged into her body. And if it sounds familiar, maybe that's what's holding you up. So acknowledging, accepting, practicing compassion, and active forgiveness can be helpful. Let's release that side and swap right ankle over left knee. Gently pull it towards you if that's in your wheelhouse. Otherwise, if you need to be more gentle, the left foot can stay on the floor or stacked on a block. Again, cross comparing the two sides because this information can be vital for us to understand how life has shown up in the body. Let's release, uncross, roll to one side, and come to a tabletop position. From tabletop position, stacking onto hands and knees, we're going to move into cat-cow. So rolling into your back bend, dropping the belly, lifting the top of the head, and exhale round into cats. Do this a few more rounds and just noticing your back, right? takes a strong person, strong character, a strong backbone to break the patterns, the cycles, the karma, in order to move into the dharmic potential. After this next round of cats, you're going to create a flat back. Step your right foot behind you, tuck the toes, push back away from your hand, stretch into your calf muscles. And this is a great stretch to remember if you tend to have Charlie horses at night. Sometimes that's dehydration. Sometimes it's too much calcium or lack of potassium, or stretching. All right, we're going to lift the right leg up, but hold it at hip height. Send the leg over to the left side of your mat. Turn your gaze over the left shoulder. Squeeze the left side body. Flush that side out, side of the bladder. Come back to center with your neck with the right leg. Turn the toes out, the hip out. Strengthen the hip. Lower and tap the foot down. Open up to stargazer pose. And then exhale, bring the hand down. Let's take that to the other side. Right knee down, left leg back, toes curl. Stretch into your calf muscles. And then shift your shoulders forward. Line up the left leg behind you. Step it off to the right side of your mat. Gaze over the right shoulder, flushing out this side where the liver is. Come back to center. Turn your left foot out. Keep that foot held up so you're strengthening the hip. Lower the foot down. Sweep the left arm into stargazer. And then slowly lower the left hand as well as the left knee. We're going to step the hands forward, curl the toes under, pop up into downward facing dog. Sending your hips up, rolling your thighs back. Cleansing breath in through the nose, out audibly through the mouth. Walk the feet forward, slowly but surely. Bow over and down to Uttanasana. Roll your head, arch your neck. What do we need to release and to let go of? Affirm nothing and no one on this earth can hold me down or back. Include whatever ancestors have tried to do so, knowingly or unknowingly, consciously or unconsciously. And then sweep the arms to your sides and up overhead. Come to upward worship at the top, gaze towards your wrists. Exhale, slide your hands to the upper part of your thighs, bow halfway over, push back into your thigh bones. Take your blocks beside your feet. Step back with your right foot, power that heel down, and come up, Virabhadrasana 1. Front knee lunging, arms overhead, because we are all warriors. The warrior can turn that karmic pattern into dharmic potential. You have and hold that power too. Exhale, take the arms to the block, spin off the back heel, tip down to the back knee, untuck the back toes. Inhale, press into the left foot. Feel your pelvic floor lifting as your arms reach up. And as you exhale, bring the hands down and sink into the pelvic floor and hips. 2 more times. Power down through the left foot. Draw up through your spine, through the pelvic floor, through the fingertips. Exhale, bring it back down. Power of 3, 1 more. Inhale, lifting up. Exhale, bring it down. Then bring the hands forward, tuck the back toes, step up to the front. Left foot steps back, bend that front knee, reach the arms up, Virabhadrasana 1. Affirming, I attune myself to the wheel of higher power. So do you think the wheel of the higher power, your God or your higher self, would want you to stay stuck in the patterns of the past? Or to rise up, to move beyond, and to create a newness for yourself in generations to come? Affirm, I attune myself to the will of higher power. Bring the arms down, spin off the back heel, touch down to the back knee. Inhale, drawing up. Anjaneyasana, the active format. Exhale, hands down, and release. Building up as you breathe in. Sinking towards gravity as you breathe out. Inhale, 1 more. Exhale, bring it on down. Hands to the blocks. Bring the right knee back. Bolster is going to be set up in front of you for our first restorative pose. Thighs widen, bolster in front. Come on down to your left cheek and relax your shoulders. Bring compassion in with your breath. Compassion being a form of love, but I want you to be compassionate with yourself. Breath, bring it in. Let your heart ooze it out. So the self-compassion is spreading through your mind, body, and spirit. Flip to the right side of your face. Softening the shoulders. Relaxing your back. Taking deep sips of breath. Unless your mind is already calm and centered. And if you're calm and centered, you can just naturally breathe. Let's slowly begin to lift our way up. We're going to move into Shavasana, and you can create Stonehenge. So the legs are up on the props or a chair. Restorative yoga is helpful in reducing stress, letting go of anxiety, runaway thoughts. But it can also be a nice release here of those karmic ties and patterns. You're ready. Deep in the flow of your breath. Roll away to one side after hugging in your knees. And take a moment to grab a bolster and sit on its edge, or you can sit up on some furniture if it's available. I'm going to do a forgiveness type of meditation. So I want you to sit with your hands, one hand cupping the other, thumbs touching. Mudra for meditation. And whoever you've been picturing through this class today that may be difficult, problematic, maybe someone again that is living or has passed. If they're living, you may be in communication or not. But I want you to picture them in your mind's eye, calling their essence towards you, taking deep sips of breath so your nervous system stays calm. Remembering to feed yourself compassion. And as you're sitting with this person's name, picture, or energy, I'm going to give you a moment to sit and feel the presence. And notice if it's in front of you, beside you, or behind you. Maybe quite subtle or faint. Trust your intuition. And if you feel this person's presence in front of you, this is usually a sign of confrontation. So say internally or aloud, I forgive you for all the wrongdoings you've done against me or another. I will choose to send you love and light, regardless of your harmful acts. I choose to love you and to forgive you in this lifetime or another, in this dimensional space or another. Now please take your proper place and stand behind me and support me. If you feel their presence beside you, let them know. I am not going to walk your path. I will not make the same mistakes. I will forge my own path, and I choose to send you love and light, regardless of any wrongdoings, regardless of any hurt or suffering you have caused in this lifetime, dimensional space, or another. I choose to forgive you for all of these things. in this lifetime or another. Now, please take your proper place and stand behind me and support me. And if you feel the presence behind you, and even though they're already in that proper place, you can still say internally or aloud, I choose to send you love and light in this lifetime or another, regardless of any wrongdoings or hurt you might have caused. In spite of the poor example you may have shared, I am cutting the cord. I'm choosing to forgive you in this lifetime, dimensional space, or another. Thank you for taking the proper place and standing behind me and supporting me as I choose to also support you. From this act of loving kindness, from this place of acceptance, compassion, and forgiveness, I release you. I choose to practice my free will. I choose to stand in my sovereignty. I choose differently. I choose to turn these karma into dharma. It stops and begins here. Open up your eyes and bring your hands to prayer position at your heart. Thank you for joining me in this class of healing ancestral wounds. Take any of these tools with you as you depart, and you can practice them as many times as you need to create a positive shift or change in your life in the family tree. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Namaste.